What's Harry up to this morning? Oh, yeah. Oh, peanuts is always good. Yes. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Excuse me. Morning at Hogwarts.
Well, sure.
Dumbledore under quarantine.
We're in the middle of an epidemic.
Official quarantine beard.
You've got something there. Like,
And I thought my quarantine beard was getting.
Wow. It's like strapping a dead cat to my face.
I'm putting a dead cat on my face.
Yeah, right.
I remember the year when we were doing the Sorting Hat, and the Sorting Hat didn't make it, and we were just like, "Don't worry, everyone, it's
Don't worry, everyone.
Dementor's got it."
I feel like there's always something last minute that you have to just make something up for.
Always.
I think the first year was so small that it was like unrecognizable.
The entire Friday night crowd.
Of like 15 people.
Yeah, it fit on the sidewalk outside that little park outside the library, with still plenty of room for people to get past.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah,
So
well, I
what
think
year was
Walt
that,
and I
though?
were year 2, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. You start at the same time. Yeah, the first year, the entire Defense Against the Dark Arts class was in the Stagecrafters Theater, and it was maybe 3/4 full. It might have been all the way full. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Dumbledore was the husband of this woman, Mary Kate, who was one of the founders, and she left after the first year, but he didn't want to do it again. So I told the story a million times, I think, and so my wife said, "Oh, by the way, I volunteered you to do this." and then Kate sent me an email about a week later asking if I had my own beard.
And it was that one? It's the one you've got?
No, that was the one that I inherited from the previous Dumbledore. And it's just the first one is the first one, and it's just a Halloween costume mask.
Right.
So not very flexible. So every time I put it on, every time I talk, the whole thing just goes like this. So I spent a lot of the day like this, and it was I didn't talk much.
So what was like, do we know what the original thinking was behind like the creation of the festival? Did it come from something else?
It came from the Chestnut Hill College Quidditch tournament.
Yeah.
They were trying to that had started. I don't know when that started. I think that started up. I looked this up a while back, and I've completely forgotten it now. I think that started up about 3 years before the festival, maybe 2 years. And and then they decided, well, all these college students are in town for the weekend. Maybe they'd like to come down and get shit-faced. And then since it was close to Halloween, they were already doing a little Halloween thing for kids anyway. So they ended up doing the pub crawl and then the expanding what they were doing on Saturday for kids anyway. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
That's actually how I got involved, was because
What year was that?
Harry Potter costume and go get drunk.
Yeah.
And that's how I got there.
I mean,
to get many people.
That's how most of the people got found, really, right? I mean, the funny story of how I joined was I just happened to be working at the coffee shop that's up at the top of the hill, and I didn't even know that they had done. I guess this was the second year, so I hadn't heard about it the previous year. Hearing that this was coming up, the owner there was like, "Hey, why doesn't everybody get like some stupid like costume stuff?" And I think I literally had like the crappy Ruby's scarf, the one that's like purple and orange, and like some like really bad glasses. But people kept coming into the coffee shop just to see me, and apparently people said like they were coming in because they heard there was somebody who looked just like me, or looked just like Harry Potter. And, like, they came for that. So eventually, like when apparently word got around, I just went to the what's called the business association. I think that was maybe the first time I met Kate, and I was like, "Hey, did you hear there was like some guy who really looks like Harry Potter?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, that was me. Do you want to be the official Harry next year?" And I was like, "Okay." That was it.
How we got picked up.
Wasn't there a period where?
Yeah, Grace, we can't really hear you, but I heard what you said. That's the same way Grace and Nick got picked up. They came, they looked bomb.
Yeah, I
We
remember.
all were like, who is that? How do we find them? What were their names? Oh my God.
Well, and Natasha and her sister, and I mean they won the
costume
contest like 3 years in a row, and we were like, all right, it's time for you guys to get on. Year 4 must have been when we first had the train, because that was the last year that we like fully used the college actors. And then after that, we kind of were getting so many people that we
had auditions and stuff.
Yeah. So, because I remember that was the year we had Mustache Ron.
What?
Who?
Yeah, Ron
I think you've showed me pictures.
Ron refused
Afro
to
Ron.
for some reason.
Was he ginger? Did he have a ginger mustache?
Is
No.
this the
No, in fact, he put like some like spray red hair.
He looks like
stuff
Percy.
on. And yeah, I mean, it was like a scanty, like, 16-year-old mustache or something. Yeah, it was
on everybody's backgrounds right
not,
now.
not our finest Ron.
Okay, here we go.
Here's part of that mustache.
So it started 2011.
Okay.
So I started, and Brielle, like anybody can see where I'm looking. Brielle, that was 2012.
Right.
Dan started 2013.
Okay.
And I think it was around.
Well, so did I. I was there.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was. I think the train and everything else started around 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, the train we did it my first year when I was Bellatrix, and they didn't even have anything set up at Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
Wait, now was it 14 though that? No. Yeah. Wait, it might have been that we just like arrived, right? Like, didn't they like have us just get on at Highland or something?
Yes, because I was Skeeter that year.
Right. The train started 2014.
God, I wish that we could still do it. Which year was the one
so
where
good. So good.
Which year was it that they did a proposal over by the Sorting Hat?
Yeah, that was Skeeter that year, so 2014. And I like, it was up to me. Like they're like, hey, I'm gonna propose, and I'm like, okay. Nobody, this like woman in the back was like, well, somebody better get their cell phone out and film this. I'm like, oh my, because no one was prepared at all.
On the train on the way in, he pulled me aside and told me he wanted to do it. So I told Kate or somebody when we got there so they could have a photographer, and then the photographer never, I don't know what happened, the photographer never made it.
Yeah. Was that the year that we also didn't have the sorting hat at the sorting hat station?
Oh no.
Probably.
My favorite was when we did on the stage, when we did our like Defense Against the Dark Arts class like skit. Because it ended up being so
Oh, that was great.
That was really fun.
Only one No, did anybody record that?
The Facebook friend, somebody posted it, I'm sure.
Probably.
The full thing, maybe. Could be. Yeah.
I'm sure of it, because like we had the night before. So.
I just feel like there were so many people there. Somebody must have filmed at least like clips, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be really cute to see. I'm not gonna lie.
We got interviewed by Time Magazine the one time, and then we couldn't
never
find it
did.
anywhere.
We never
There
found
are
it.
so many moments. I distinctly remember somebody filming or photographing that have been lost to time.
Yeah.
And I just wish there was a way to like track down and
Got yeeted directly into the internet and then never again.
It's out there in the ether somewhere.
Maybe Warner Brothers is a little more powerful than we thought.
Oh God.
Killing people soon.
An unknown member joins our chat.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would have.
It's the broken leg in Ithaca, and like, the headlines read, "Teen breaks leg at Harry Potter Festival," and they were like, "No."
What?
The year right before that was when they were like planning on having a whole booth to advertise for the first Fantastic Beasts movie.
Yeah. They were supposed to like bring like some of the clothing, like some of the costumes and stuff. They were gonna like display it all.
Yeah, it was all like gonna become legit. Like we're gonna somehow join the Universal family or something. And then for whatever reason, we may never know, they got cold feet, and now
it fizzled out.
Like Daniel Radcliffe, they couldn't handle it.
Yeah. Was there like prior notice that it was being shut down, or did you find out when the headlines started coming out?
No.
We emailed.
We knew
we got a
places had gotten letters.
Or no, it wasn't a cease and desist. Yeah, it was like a you can't do these things.
It was like a domino thing. Kate was showing us letters that other places had received, but we hadn't received them yet. So,
because you remember we had about a 3-month period of like it's happening.
Yeah.
And then we came back and Kate said, let's not plan anything just yet. And then we came back, and 3 months later
I just really wonder what changed in that time. Like, I kind of feel like, I don't know, their lawyers must have told them that if you acknowledge this one as like, okay,
acknowledge all.
Then that's gonna put us in legal trouble where people can just start using our copyrights or whatever.
Well, I think the other part of it too is there were, I don't know how many festivals around the world, but if they would have had to, basically set up a division just to police all the festivals, and I think they just didn't want to bother.
Too much. The funny thing was ours operated at a deficit. We didn't really make that much money. They lost money for the festival. It was mostly like a PR thing for Chestnut Hill.
Yeah. From a legal standpoint, when you break it down in copyright law, if you let one thing slide, you then have the precedence to let everything else slide. So if they shut down this one convention in France, then they had to shut down all of them. And I remember reading an article at one point where a former legal aid from Warner Brothers said they sent out something like 5,000 different letters, cease and desists, and threatening cease and desist letters.
I feel like at that point they just need to give it up and let the people have it.
Yeah.
Because you have to send that many.
So I disappear.
Yeah. There was one
She's too green.
One woman in England actually said that she got a cease and desist letter when she was having a Harry Potter themed tea party for her and her neighbors. 6 people come over her house, and she put Harry Potter decorations up, and she posted pictures on Facebook, and Warner Brothers sent her a cease and desist letter.
What?
Oh, be careful, we might be next.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that...
This chat right here will get shut down.
Draw the broken camel's back.
I thought something fun that we could do would be maybe to like go one at a time, play popcorn, and just talk about like what it was like the day of, like walking around as our characters, like fun experiences that we had playing the various roles that we did in the festival.
Yeah.
We could start with Mr. Harry Potter and then, just kind of down from there.
It changed every year for me. That was always really interesting because as much as we tried to plan like what I should be doing and what my what my day would look like, it would just always be different. So like the very first year that I did it, which was the third year that it was ever done. Basically, it was still small enough that the business association was just like, yeah, just whatever, just walk around, have fun, enjoy it. And I had put together, the costume by then. I think I had, I've been improving it little by little, but it was pretty good from the get-go. Awesome. And that's actually the one with the famous picture of me and Weasley as Ginny, and she's like kissing me. At that point, there was so little going on. I mean, not in a bad way, but like it was just sort of very, hey, everybody's working together to make this thing happen. That I was just supposed to wander and enjoy myself, and like I had like no official responsibilities. And
not yet.
Yeah.
Soon, Dan.
I think that was the only year I was actually able to do the Rita-thon thing. because I had nothing else to do. And literally every year since then, they're like, would you please come back and read for the readathon? And I'm just like, I don't have time.
You sold out.
Yeah, like we just wandered around. I remember we spent a lot of time up at the college watching Quidditch for a little bit. I mean, you know, we were able to take the bus there and back like twice or something because it was, you know, it was just kind of relaxed and whatever. And I think from the third to the fourth year was a pretty big leap in like just attendance and like it becoming a whole thing. And I think that was the first time that we really tried to like hammer down a schedule and scripts and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, ever since then, like my where I'm going to be at any moment was like down. And I think maybe the fourth year I had a little time to myself briefly, but ever since then, it's just sort of like, nope, tight schedule for like 6 hours.
Like the day flies by.
Yeah.
Costume.
Yeah.
Depending on if it's raining or if it's really hot or if it's cold. Really depending on the festival weather.
Aside from like 1 year, we were pretty good though. We were pretty lucky.
Yeah,
I feel like it was mostly temperate for the time we were there.
And the water went all the way up the stockings in the 6 hours that it rained.
Yeah, my first year, I remember it rained a little bit, it drizzled, and like I had like so perfectly done my hair up, and and it just like it got like a little frizzy, the makeup got a little damp, and I was so worried. But
now imagine me with the pink.
Yeah.
That wig
At
looks
one point, I was like rubbing it off. Chris is like, he had it like on his shoulder, and I'm like,
oh my god! All the things you do in costume.
What was the time with?
We're just smiling really close, and I'm like, oh my god, it won't come out.
I feel like Walt, you've got like a really interesting evolution through the years.
And just funny kid experiences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first year it was largely about, for me, just trying not to face plant in the costume because it was, for some reason.
Because those heels are really rough, right, Walt? Those heels they'll kill you. They will.
Official Dumbledore should have been wearing heels.
Well, first of all, the costume, I don't know why they did this, but the costume is an extra large, so it's very long, and then trying to keep the beard on, especially the early beard, which didn't do anything except just stay when you tried to go over here. But there was one kid, I don't know if you remember this kid, he was there. I remember him the first 3 or 4 years. He probably was there the whole time. But he was small, and he always had on transition glasses or dark glasses, and he had a buzz cut. And he was the first one to realize that wands are great pointy sticks.
Oh,
and he's the one who had Voldemort pinned up against the wall. It was that year. Once he gets to dark arts, and the idea was everyone was going to come around from the back behind Stagecrafters. It was on the lawn next to Stagecrafters, and then Harry was going to get up and say, "Oh, look, it's Voldemort and his chums. Let's fight them off.
Go get them."
And as soon as Dan said that, this kid stood up and yelled, "Let's get him!" And everybody. And it was like a whole bunch of bands.
Why did we think Voldemort and all the Death Eaters could just surprise a bunch of 6-year-old kids and not?
This is when I face planted running away.
Yeah. And the weirdest part for me was when that happened. Afterwards, when we got the kids to back up, one of the Death Eaters took off her mask, and I discovered it was my daughter.
Oh.
Without the handlers, somebody already talked about this, but I remember the way I would walk through the crowd was knock things over, and then I'd go here, and then people would say, "Can we take a picture?" And I'd say, "Sure," and then I'd go this far.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's it.
That was definitely the universal experience.
Once you stop, you
Absolutely.
cannot start again.
Yeah.
Like when we were
And
together and we were
with the
posing, it was
cameras, everybody
constant.
just Was I turned it off. Handed to somebody else in the crowd who had never seen that phone before. And the worst part was when somebody had an actual camera and they handed it off to somebody else because nobody else had ever seen a camera before.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. By the way, I'd be that person.
You always run into a kid, you all did this, where they really were so excited. And that was great. And then there'd be some other kid who would be like, well, you're supposed to be dead. What are you doing here?
You're supposed to be dead.
Or how many aliases have you had? So you've Dumbledore, Gandalf, Merlin, Santa Claus.
Right.
Oh no.
What else?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Gandalf was the big one.
Never got confused for anybody.
I remember that was an eventuality that we were prepared for. That part of our whole like training process was like, what happens if someone says you're supposed to be dead, or you know what's up? You're not supposed to be here at this time. Or
like, why does he have his
room
memories?
with this person?
Right.
You talk about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell them to smile.
I never remembered it actually like happening that much to me, but I wonder, did it happen more to people playing? Well, did it happen? Well, no, but did it happen more to people playing villains? I wonder that kids would try to like, like.
Oh my god!
It surprisingly did not happen very much with. At least I don't recall that happening because I was worried the whole time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get like the "why do you remember who you are" kind of thing.
It happened like once.
But I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I got that.
It helped that both of our characters are fast talkers. So like you change the subject fast enough, you're like, oh, we have to be somewhere, darling. It's been wonderful talking to you.
I was thinking,
You
like,
were
I
the
just
duo
was
that
trying to
nobody
think.
You were the duo nobody knew we needed. Like Rita Skeeter and Gilderoy Lockhart are the perfect foils for each other.
Yeah. So I'll say this about that, and that is that like I feel like when it came to being recognized, we didn't get nearly the elation just to be seen as everyone else did.
Yeah.
I mean, people were the parents were excited. The kids
People
were like,
had
I don't
fun.
like them.
I think that kids did like people liked us because we were colorful. That was the only reason
They
saw.
were crapping on you the whole time. That's for sure.
Oh,
like
no,
they were like
Hermione-
Rita Skeeter.
Hermione's were. Everyone else was cool with me. Hermione's were also were always just like, I trapped you in a bottle, and I'd be like, you're a little, and then I'd have to run away.
But so I mean, while we didn't get the same elation as Harry and Hermione and Ron and all the Gandalf and all the lovable Harry Potter characters,
like Merlin.
we definitely were at least given a bit more freedom to be like just wild. Like when people ask for pictures, it was only, oh, of course you want a picture of me. It's only natural that Gilderoy Lockhart would like, and then I would get like, do you want my book in the picture or out of the pic? We get all kinds of like. It'd just be a good excuse to be just a weirdo.
I feel like we were the token Harry Potter jackasses, and like
sure.
we really had fun with it while we did it, while it lasted. We savored those moments.
Yeah.
We didn't have to be super nice to people. We were.
Yeah, I mean, I was about as nice as a celebrity can be to somebody.
We were about as nice as narcissists can be.
Yeah.
As in like comparing yourself to someone else and saying like, oh, you're beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Brielle, did you ever, as Umbridge, get any sort of, like, what are you doing here?
Not like that. Umbridge has a very, like, it's either like ridiculously like poignant, like very strong hate, or like the utmost love and respect for who she is as a woman.
Oh, that was us. That was us for you. That was
so
us,
I would
the
get,
first time we saw you.
I would get a bunch of kids who were just like over me, like hated me. I would get boos. Like I would walk places and people would like boo.
That's how you know you're doing your job.
Yeah.
Right. But then a lot of like, I would say middle-aged women would be like, yes, queen. I had a stamp that said, I must not tell lies in red. And so I
Oh
would just
my
get
God, that's
people-
so
great.
good.
Yeah, so
I
would
remember
scan
you
people
testing
and
it
I had
on us.
flyers. I would hand out flyers for like Muggle, like the dangers of Muggle-borns and like all this stuff.
I'll
But
get
I
it
got it
and
on
say it's very
eBay
pretty.
before
It's got a little
I
crystal on the wall.
realized it was hard to find for $1.49.
Wow.
What?
Whoa!
Is that a Noble Collection replica? Or is it...
Well, the Noble Collection doesn't make her wand,
Oh.
What?
so someone made it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And I
Oh,
put it in a
awesome.
We should
bit,
send
like,
a picture
at
of our
school one
wand
day.
wall. We
Yeah.
have a wall
Yeah.
o' wands.
We do have a wall of wands, though I have to say
Yeah.
we went to Katsucon back in February,
Mhm.
and there was a person
Back
there
before we were
back
trapped
before we
in-
couldn't
back
leave.
when the outside world existed.
And there was a place there was a stand that had wands of not just like original wands and stuff, and they had a Gilderoy Lockhart wand, and I swear to you, Brielle, I know you're feeling, because there's like you can't even find. I found like the most pixelated picture of Lockhart's wand online, and like I was mind blown that someone ever made it.
I know.
Well, and because his
Tonks
wand,
at the Ren Fair. That's how I found Tonks's.
Really?
his wand never got the glow up. You know, it
No.
existed just when all the wands were basically like just long
Yeah.
sticks, and that was that.
Yeah. It was kind of a stick with curly bits on it. And
But I remember way back when I was a baby fan and I bought from the Noble Collection Voldemort's wand. I was so proud of it when I finally got it. I was like, yes, I have the power.
my first was Lupin's, I think. No. Oh my gosh. Sirius. Yes. Sirius was my
Okay.
first.
Well,
Yeah.
Brendan, you've got to have just from those shoes alone, those boots.
So I was a cosplayer, and kind of sometimes still am, and I've been stopped for at least 2-3 dozen costumes that I've done in the past, and I have never gotten that kind of reaction that I did when I was Hagrid. But yeah, so I've had a lot of really good interactions. I think the best at the festival was the first year I did it, which was the year before the last year. I had this mother come up to me, and she's dragging her kid behind her, and she comes up to me and she's like, "My kids hate Harry Potter. I can't. It's been a nightmare bringing them here."
Oh.
And I was like, "Well, why do they hate it?" It's like, "'Cause magic's not real to them anymore."
Oh.
Oh.
Aww.
You gotta be kidding me. And so I leaned down and I was like, "Do you believe in dragons?" And this kid was like, "No." Like 8, 9 years old. And then I that year I had the
Norbert.
the Norbert dragon, and so I had reached into my coat pocket and just like flicked the on button, and you could hear it like twiddling in my pocket, and the kid just like looks at my pocket and he sees the Norbert head come like out of the pocket a little bit, and he goes and he hides behind his mom.
Oh.
and that was early on in the day, and I had gotten I was stuck in Diagon Alley area for most of that day, and
Oh yeah.
I think it was like an hour before the festival was supposed to end. I'm walking back towards the Chamber of Commerce Center, or wherever we were stationed back then, and this same woman comes up to me and she's like, "Thank you. He has been so much more appreciative and so much more interested now because of that." And I was like, I mean, sometimes all a kid needs is a dragon.
Don't we all?
Sometimes an adult needs a
Yeah,
dragon
really.
too. Let's be honest.
Honestly, so.
There was something so wonderful about like stepping out on that main street and seeing your silhouette up above everyone else's.
Oh yeah.
Like for me, that was probably the most magical thing. Was like
With the
crowd of
music
people.
going and the speakers,
Yeah.
and then yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never really felt all that connected to a character or the people that that were taking pictures of me. until I started really being Hagrid, and it really came to a head at that festival, and it's an amazing feeling. It's the reason why that costume still hangs in my closet at some points, and
yeah.
Unfortunately, the boots are a little worse for wear at this point. But,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Eventually, I'll learn how to make actual stilts and how to graft them into my legs. So
Please do not hurt yourself.
Yeah,
Please do not hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I've only fallen twice in my costume.
All right.
Once at Dragon Con and once at Katsicon.
Oh
I think
God.
that's neat because a lot of us, I think, that's what we feel like about our characters after all the years, you know.
Yeah, I can't get rid of this sucker. She's too fluffy.
I was definitely feeling your vibes when you were saying, Grace and Nick, that you could just kind of go off and just be kooky and weird with people.
So much fun. No expectations. It's so great.
I think the very first interaction that I had with someone else in character on that, like the first morning that I was doing it, was you. And I just remember being so blown away at your commitment. You had like the incense burning.
Oh yeah, that's
so good.
Drunk as the skunk.
Very good.
Hey, acting.
Yeah, acting.
Yeah, all right. That was full of coffee. I really literally did. I showed up with like what looked like a sherry bottle to the one
Naked
place
Eye?
in the farmers market, and I pointed at the coffee tap because they had that, like, the cult they had just started doing. I was like, please just fill this up. So I was like, I already had drunk glasses on, so. Yeah.
Oh, I brought my glasses.
Drinking anything really, like, would really mess me up.
What were
during the
fan
day, so.
interactions like as Trelawney? Like, how did people treat you?
Oh, I have great reception. But it would come and go. There would be certain times of the day where people are like, who is this crazy person? We don't even know who you are. And I would get ignored. And then I would have to do things like, oh, does anybody mind if I smoke? And I'd pull out my incense stick and like light it. And they're like, oh my God, oh, it's you.
That was
You
my
crazy,
favorite with
crazy
you.
lady.
That was my favorite with you, is
there'd
how
be times when
when
people
nobody
just-
would know who you are, but you would be 100% in character. And they're
So
just looking
good.
at you like you're a guest, and you're like, you know, just trying to overact or whatever, and you're like, no, like I'm part of this. I'm not gonna break character. Like,
yeah, it was kind of
A lot of
challenging.
kids would be like a lot of moms would be like, oh, we're not at that book yet. Like when they came to me, or like Skeeter, she's not really like characters that are smaller. Trelawney, like she'd be like, oh, we didn't get there yet, and I'm like, okay.
Why do you feel the need to tell me this?
running into people that I knew and having to stay in character was like
Oh my
hardest
God.
thing in the
Oh
world.
my
It
God.
happened with me and Kara, because
Yeah.
Kara was there. Kara was there as a
first time
guest
I
the
was there,
first
I
year.
came because you were in it, and I was like, that sounds fun. And I showed up, and people thought I was like part of the festival.
But she came up to me to say hi, and I was like I really wanted Kara to just be like, oh my God,
I
hi
appreciate
Kara.
it. You didn't break. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
My friends Tim and Kate brought their I think he was 3 or 4 years old at the time. They brought their son, and to this day he still calls me Hagger, because that was the first real interaction I ever had with him. And Tim was just like, hey, look, it's Hagrid. Hagger.
That's back when I would like interview kids for the Sorting Hat. And I'd be like, what do you like? Like, blah, blah. And then we had these little, like, I would be like, oh, that's interesting. And then Dumbledore knew to do like Ravenclaw, or like Hufflepuff with like
to do
rubbing.
that.
We succeeded.
Slytherin.
Well, I have to
Yeah,
say
we
that
tried
I
to do
think we
signals.
revolutionized the system.
Good. What did you guys do?
What?
Well,
us?
So we had
Oh,
4
Captain.
different names. We had what was it? Mooney, Reminisce, Lupin, and Professor.
Yeah.
And each one meant a different house. And I would
Yeah.
sit there and just BS, talk to the person while he's with somebody else. And I'm like, da 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 da, and they'd be like, oh, Mooney, they're coming. And then that would mean like a Hufflepuff for whoever was getting
Right.
sorted, or
Each one
I love
corresponded.
that.
Like
Really good
Professor
one.
was Ravenclaw because smart, and
Yeah.
We had a lot.
We did the same thing. It was pretty much the same thing. It was like Professor, Darling, like something. It would be that where it was like it was kind of like fun. It was like an added little bonus to be like, here you go, darling. Here's this next one, and then they'd come in and they'd be like, ah, yes, darling, and you'd know that meant like. I don't know, Hufflepuff or something, and it was
every
like
now and then I wouldn't hear what the word was, so then
it would get so loud.
Oh yeah.
There
were definitely.
I remember Brielle, didn't they? Some people figured it out, and that was like kind. But it's kind of fun because it's like you got the puzzle. Like,
it's like a code, you know.
Well, we did hand
that was
symbols.
before it was too big. Well, it was kind of big, but not so big because kids could still kind of hang around if they wanted to, and there was a group of kids that stayed and like, I know what that means.
We would point to our head for Ravenclaw, heart for Gryffindor, stomach for Hufflepuff.
And your arm for Slytherin for the Dark Knight.
That's right. Yeah, and the kids were like, we saw it. We saw what you did.
Those were back in the basic days, you know.
Now, wait, does anybody have any, like, I know that there's, I didn't really get to do the sorting very much. And I know there's some stories of people who are like sorted into the wrong house or whatever. But were there ever any like big disappointments where like some kid was almost crying or anything?
I think when we did it wrong that one time, we took it back immediately. We were like, oh, we misheard it. It was Gryffindor the whole time.
I'm pretty sure it only happened to us like once, but there was one time where actually, like, I think there were a couple times where we asked beforehand and they were like, I don't know, I want to be in whatever house. And then you'd just be like,
Ravenclaw,
just wing it, and then they'd do it, and then they'd be like, all right, I'll take that. I feel like if you default to Gryffindor, most people.
And I think it was mostly when you gave them the one they wanted, they'd be like, oh.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh,
I think I mostly saw the most upset from the parents who were there with their kids and clearly didn't know the books as well. Therefore, they thought like there's only the binaries, like only if you're good, you're Gryffindor, if you're bad, you're Slytherin. Because we always would try to play a joke. Like we knew if parents were there with kids that we usually put the parents in Slytherin to make the kids laugh. But then the parents would get really upset about that. Like,
that means we sorted them
there was
correctly.
this one mom. There was a mom who I remember her, she like huff and puffed and then looked at Chris all silly and then walked away.
Huff and puff. Oh my goodness.
Because wasn't it you lift the hat and then he said, will you after all this time?
Yeah.
Marry me?
And she said always or something like that.
Yeah.
But when
I'm in the back of that picture like this, like
an honored role.
It's on like some pop sugar 5-minute video or whatever, like on YouTube or something, and I'm like in the back like.
It's like
happened was
video,
we put the hat down while he was getting over her eyes, and then said, oh, the hat is not putting you in a normal house, or the hat seems confused or something. You're going in a special house, and then lifted the hat off, and there he was. I think that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, he says Super Mario. He says Super Mario.
There was, like, when it comes to Voldemort, there was, I do say there was not a moment that I was not doing something. Because it was like, the second year I was a part of it, and I was going around, there were actual groups of kids that formed search parties to come and find me. And, like, as soon as they would see me, they would yell, like, he's here, get him! And they'd run over, and the thing is, like, I wanted to be in character for them naturally, and I was, but it was like, if I remember correctly, weren't we not allowed to use cursing spells? Kind of a thing?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to use.
We did though.
Yeah.
Because remember we were like, Voldemort can't like say like Cruciatus or something. Like, I feel like that did happen.
Right. I think probably nothing worse than Stupefy or Expelliarmus or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
And
that was
so,
always
like,
baffling if a fan threw an Avada Kedavra at you. If like you don't want to break the magic, but you can't just die, you know.
I mean,
like-
I had to be like, Potato!
Go home.
Potato!
Mhm.
Potato! Like over and over and over.
And basically, Thomas, you ended up having to fall over in all of your roles. For
Yeah.
different-
Well, I so vividly remember when your wand actually broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember it breaking on stage, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Because then you needed a stunt wand specifically
Mhm.
for that sketch, so that you wouldn't be breaking a nice wand over and over.
Right.
For me, when it comes to the like how the two roles kind of differed with that, like I was interacting with people all the time when it came to Voldemort, because you'd either get happy responses or like anger responses, people trying to chase after you, and you entertain the kids however you can. One kid decided to give his wand to his mother to fight me with, and it was like the elder wand. I was like, oh no!
Oh no!
So I had to just make a hasty getaway and such like that. Oh, gosh, the thing with Neville, it was like a very different kind of activity, because I had to go to now being someone who's rather shy and but also trying to like learn things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have I had like a notebook with me during going around the town to like draw different plants and take notes of them, because the whole thing of him like to study herbs and whatnot. And I would try to like ask his like what this plant is, or like what does it do, and I would try to like go up to a professor every so often and say like, oh, I hold a map out to them and say, I can't find this place, and can you help me? And it would turn out, as the professor would figure out, that the map was upside down.
That was one thing I always wish we kind of got a better handle on, was those like impromptu street skits.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
we always planned so much for them, and then I think we just didn't have the time
Because we just stand in pictures.
Vast majority of it. Like
Yeah.
our interactions were just because we were next to each other
Mhm.
the whole time. It made it much easier to do interactions, but like we rarely ever saw other characters around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause we
I
just get mobbed by
sometimes hung out
people.
with the Malfoys, and those are my favorite pictures because it's all black and then just me and like.
Bright pink.
Nice.
Yep.
Score.
Yeah.
Light pink.
But for the most part, I just had a Death Eater with me, and I walked around and got stopped and whatever.
I think the best we got most of the time would just be seeing someone else and be like, "Oh, you! Look, it's." And that's that.
Yo! And then.
Around in the crowd before.
Yeah. I think the only impromptu thing that I remember doing was when Jamie was DJing, and you were doing like a Q&A as Lupin, or like someone was asking you a question, and they were like, "Hey, like, do you see much of your friends anymore?" And I happened to be nearby, and I heard it, and then I ran over and was like, "Oh, Remus! Oh, hello!" I think that's the only time I actually remember doing something resembling like being in character.
Also, do you guys remember the snitch?
Choose
Yes.
one of our
Oh
cosplay
my gosh,
Oh.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she won the costume
Won the
contest,
contest,
the
yeah.
previous year, and then they brought her on as the snitch.
Oh my gosh, she was so cute. What a great idea for a costume.
That picture we all have of like up
Yeah.
in that room, and she's in it like golden, like.
Mhm.
That's a
There was
good
one
one.
point where she ran past me and she was like, "Bet you can't catch me," and I was like, "No, I can't."
Could you imagine though, just like stomping down the street?
It'd be like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
We were
And
so
for any
lucky to have
children around
Jamie
you.
as the DJ finally,
Mhm.
because the guy they had before him was such booty. Like it was so bad, and he knew
Did you say
nothing
booty?
about Harry Potter.
Booty.
Booty.
Yeah, booty. Like he was just like in the microphone, be like, "Hey, all you witches and wizards, yeah, we're witches and wizards." And
He was too cool for us.
Witches and wizards. And it'd be like this weird music, and he knew nothing. It was so strange. Thank God we got Jamie. I actually like one year, Jamie wasn't gonna get the big stage, and I said to Kate, like put him in the main place because that guy we cannot anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird journey for me because it was like obviously, I came into it because I think I'd done an event for Chestnut Hill previous. So I can't remember what it was, but it was something. And then Kate was like, "Oh, you've got an accent. Can you do that?"
You have a convenient accent.
Yeah,
We'd steal you.
Would you be interested in doing the Harry Potter on the Friday night for the costume, the pub crawl and the costume, and because the hotel. I think that's actually what it was. I think the hotel had booked me before, and then it kind of spiraled into that, and then they asked me to do the costume thing. So my experience was just coming into that, and then meeting Walt and Dan because they were the only two judges. So really, that was my only experience of the Harry Potter festival up until that point, and then I think I kind of impressed them, and it was kind of funny because I've got a terrible memory, but like I was just going through the photos, and it's like I think I actually just come back from Universal Harry Potter World, and so Fletcher was 1 year old, and fortunately for some reason my computer's not sharing the pictures, but I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's Fletcher giving Dumbledore a very, very.
He's pretty suspect.
But like,
Not sure about this.
Bewildered Dumbledore.
Yeah. So that was that, and then I think Kate said, "Look, we would love you to come back the next year," and then I ended up doing the lower stage. The lower stage with my biggest memory of that stage is being hit in the face by a huge owl wing by Mike Poy's the bird show. Like this, yeah, because he kept on coming every year and like doing the bird show, and this owl just whacked me full in the face with his wing because I was
The stories that come out of this festival are the weirdest.
So good.
And then, gold, but they're so weird.
What was weird about that was Kate had asked me to do it, and I'd obviously was just the DJ and emceeing it, and I was just like, so do I come in costume, or do I do? What do I like? How do I approach this? Because it was like, and so I literally just sort of came as. What's the band?
The Seven Sisters.
The Weird Sisters. Yeah, I was the tour DJ for the Weird Sisters.
Yeah,
that's how I kind of passed myself off. And then, but then I was like, this is not really sticking. So unfortunately, Chris, I kind of like there was, so I much to Chris's unfortunate. I was like, well, who could I be? And the only person I could really like pull off, because I'm not really an actor by trade. Like, I was like, well, what about Lupin? So. That was the big year of like the 500,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Coming. And
I mean, we did that.
Did we ever get a figure on how many people came?
I think it was 150 actually.
I think it was 1 billion, you guys. I think they really counted 1 billion people.
2 billion people.
It was about 4 billion people. Yeah. It was about 4 billion.
I remember distinctly being about 17 zillion people.
Yeah, I mean, my fondest memories of that was the costume contest, really, with Walt. See, the one that made me laugh the most was the Dementor, because she just came up, and like me and Walt are like, we had barely any sound in there, and she's like bringing this whole like.
She had a plan.
She had this old soundtrack of like the Dementor sounds. And like, so me and Walt like backstage trying to figure out all the sounds, and she's just sat there, and so her costume's this huge Dementor outfit. I mean, it's probably about 8 foot tall. Walt, am I right?
Oh my God!
Yes.
It was a huge 8 foot like costume, and they with sound, and then she gave us this sort of like. Was it an iPod or something with like all the tracks on? Or something?
Just like Dementor's Greatest Hits 101 or something.
Dementors.
And then
dry ice. She had a bucket of dry ice.
That's right.
Oh my God, she committed. I am proud. Good for her.
And it was this hilarious thing because she couldn't go anywhere. So like literally, we had all the people coming up onto the stage and then doing their little flourish. And then walking off, but she was sat there. She was sat backstage the whole time. So every time I was like doing like stuff, all I could see was this Dementor in sort of in the back of the stage, just like doing this. And the worst thing was, if there's video footage, is my mic was about 2 foot long, so I'm literally trying to like, I'm literally doing this like everywhere,
Right.
trying to host it, and then she comes on, and it's just like, woo. And then I think I played Thriller, and Dan at that point turned up as Harry, and like everyone was just like, oh my god, like, oh my gosh, Harry's here. And then somehow I just over the mic kind of put Dan in it and said, look, come on Harry, you got to do the Thriller. And like literally everyone in the whole dance floor just started doing the Thriller dance. Dan leading it, and me kind of like wearing this, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is the best part.
You know, and it was just like, because it was like, but there's a really great photo of the three of us as Lupin, Sirius, and Tom.
And Tonks, right?
I have it.
I love
Set
that.
it around.
Oh, it's so.
That's such a good pick.
Yeah.
Quality
And it
pick.
kind of like, as much as I felt bad for me, like I felt horrible for taking Chris's role because I know how much it means to him.
Chris, you look so good as Sirius.
But that was the
you
thing.
look
It was
so
like,
freaking
great,
good.
yeah.
You look
I
amazing.
mean, he's like, he's a man of many seasons, so
I just like doing weird facial hair, you know.
yeah.
And I remember when I learned I'd be doing Sirius instead, I was a little shaken at first, but then I was just like, well, this is cool because I played Dumbledore in a Harry Potter musical, and I got to be Lupin that one year, and then I got to be Sirius, and those are my top 3. So I was like,
Yeah, I mean,
great.
you
I'm just
guys-
checking off the box.
Works out.
Yeah, I mean, you and you guys were like big supports, because I was like, I have no idea, like, because that was the year I was like playing character, so I had to stay in character. So I just remember coming up to Chris and just like going, I'm freaking out, man. I'm freaking out. Like this. What do I do?
We stuck together.
Yeah, we stuck together, but it was it's the most surreal thing.
And I think people like that though. They like to get pictures with like a group, like a box set, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, I don't know how you guys do it like a lot, because it was just like the most tiring, draining thing. And I just remember walking in at the end of the day and just seeing Dan literally just sapped, like literally, the Dementor had actually sapped everything out of him, and it was just like, yeah, just like.
Crazy day.
I think my favorite Dan wildly having to improv anything story was not from the festival, but when we did the after hours science thing at Franklin Institute.
The Franklin Institute.
And it was the end of the day, and they were about to make the fire go with the balloon, and they handed you the mic, and they were like, so Harry, is there a special incantation to extract the Horcrux? And you're like, oh yeah, there is. And they're like, what is it? And you're like, Horcruxio extractium.
Why not?
It's such a deer in headlights moment, but you played it off so
They were like,
well.
okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, everyone did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, not people like, sure.
But it just summed up. I think
All right.
it just summed up like the end of that festival, how special it was. Because the next year, like me and Walt, we obviously when we ended up realizing it was going to be a witches and wizards thing, like we were just like, me and Walt were just walking around going like, well, we were dressed as 2 old wizards, but it was like Statler and Waldorf. Like we were just going, oh, it ain't what it used to be. I think so. I guess in summation, it just shows you the power of. I mean, it took me about a week to get over that final year.
Kara, Justin, I'm staring at both of you. Kara, you joined it only for that last year, but you were there as a guest and then as a character. Can you like what were the differences between being there as a, you know?
Yeah, what's it like to be a guest?
Yeah.
Well, the year I was a guest, I remember was the year that it was like gross weather. Because
that was my first year.
Yeah, and you guys did the outdoor like Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson, which was awesome. But I remember I wore these like flats that were like not protective from the rain at all. So I came to like support Chris and like check out the Harry Potter stuff, and my feet were so wet, and it was terrible. But I didn't have all that much Luna gear on. Like I didn't have the big the next year or anything, but I had like the glasses and stuff, and kids were already like, "Oh, Luna!" And I was like, "Hey, I wonder if they just." But definitely more fun to be official. Thank you.
Get lessons on what to say.
The most like prevalent memory from actually doing it was Trevor, the toad, and because Neville's help through the whole thing was excellent, because I was not acting when I was confused about where to go. I just didn't know where to go. So it was a very real sense of confusion. So it worked though.
And then meeting me was like the 5th favorite thing.
Yeah.
Well, but I distinctly remember, it was like one of our first rehearsals for the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and Kara had just like leaned over and been like, "Who's that playing Ron? He's a cute one."
Oh yeah, I remember that. After rehearsal, I was like, "Chris, he's cute." Like,
Lo and behold. Justin, didn't you have like a prepared sketch that you did with Jen? Where I remember,
was it for the spew rally?
Yeah, part of that. It was all both years. There was a version of Spew, because I remember a lot of the day was just trying, because Spew was on the lower end of the whole street, and I remember trying to get to Spew on time was always very difficult because it was just hard to get through the crowd.
Yeah,
I feel like there was a lot of like planning on the fly that happened. They'd be like, "We need you here. Can you help? Please go."
Yep.
And then you would spend 20 minutes trying to get through the crowd to where they pointed.
Yeah, I had to like trying to be in character, and then also having people being like, "Brielle, where am I supposed to be? Brielle, oh my God, this happened. Brielle, oh my God." I was like pulled in 2 different directions, and I would like look at my phone hours later, and someone would be like, "We don't have the sorting hat. What do we do?" And I like never saw it because I was in a mob of picture taking. Like, yeah, it got a little crazy.
No. It's a shame because like that the last year that we were able to have it like branded Harry Potter or whatever, we actually started to get everything kind of under control.
Yeah,
Remember
definitely.
we had like those golf carts and like people who were actually kind of better minders.
Yeah. It was also cool having that space to get dressed and like take a break
Yeah,
and
that
have a
little
snack and stuff.
secret
That was so cool.
safe house that we had.
At the end of the day, I had to walk all the way back up the hill barefoot because he showed up.
Oh my God.
That's awful.
Yeah, and people were like, "Well, why are you so short now?" I was like, "Cause bitch, I ain't walking a mile up the hill in these boots."
You're not gonna face plant like me in my heels, okay?
That was after the show.
Yeah, the year I did Skeeter, half of the day I was barefoot because I could not.
It was a lot.
I was Snape.
It was a hot day. I mean, it was a hot day.
Yeah. But then we had Tommy Foy that one year.
yeah,
I
that was
remember
a fun
him.
year. I remember having many conversations with him during rehearsals.
Yeah.
He was cool.
And he did the really good skit where we gave him like what was it, like the tiger stripe boxers or whatever.
Yes.
That was great. And nobody got the punchline. Remember, Chris, you had the punchline of bullying is the true dark art. And, and like silence. Everybody was like,
and bullying is
Man, it hit too hard.
I think Walt wrote that line. That was hysterical.
and we were like, and pause for laughter. And it's just like,
crickets.
No?
So good. Nick was so good in that. Oh my God. Like,
oh, thank you, Nick. You destroyed that sketch. Like you chewed it up and made it your own. It was amazing.
Marietta.
I was lucky enough to be one of like the most oafish comic relief characters in the series.
Yeah.
So I could really just be as dumb and cartoonish as
meet
I possibly could be.
Wow.
I just can't get over the fact that he called Lupin Professor Groupon in the middle of the skit.
Oh my God, it's the best burn in the world.
Sandra, what was your experience like as Bellatrix and then as Tonks, obviously?
Jeez. Okay, so Bellatrix, that was kind of a very last minute situation. It was super fun, but it was freezing that day, so I was miserable. So the attitude and the snarkiness was all 100% honest and true. I was not happy. I was freezing. Although I did have fun. I'm not going to say that I didn't have fun at all because it was one of the best experiences ever. Yeah. I remember at one point, Brielle and I and like some of the other people that were doing it kind of snuck off by stagecrafters just to hide for a little while. And I ended up taking a maybe 10-15 minute nap. I was like on a rock, upside down. Like, and I wake up because I see flashes and I'm like, what the heck is that? And people were all around me taking pictures of me passed out as Bellatrix. My hair at the time was all my real hair. And
nice.
Yeah, I got up all flustered. Supposedly at that point I was supposed to be screaming something about I killed Sirius Black and laughing. Didn't make it. Don't remember that ever even happening. Oh my God. I was also in heels and that was painful.
Not good. Not good time.
No. But honestly, it was super cool to be Bellatrix. And then the next year, I guess I was with Brielle and Dan in the planning situation. And I came in and they're like, oh, like we have somebody who's going to do Bellatrix. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to sit out this year. It's no big deal. And Dan's like, no, you have to be somebody. And I was like, who am I going to be? And he's like, Tonks, done. And it kind of just stuck. It became a thing. And I don't know why I didn't think of her because her and Lupin are my like idols. So I don't know where my brain just, but then
chocolate.
I would love one, thank you.
But then the year that Chris and I were together, we hadn't met prior to that day. I think we
met at the rehearsal beforehand because I remember.
Right, it was like the day before.
Yeah.
Or something.
Those were
like
so
that.
cute. It was adorable.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we had some correspondence, maybe like a couple messages, like, "How do you want to do this? Are we going to be the standoffish? We don't want to be together, or are we going to be together and commit?" And we just went for it without even deciding what we were gonna do. We just kind of went for it. We're like, whatever. We did it.
Your heart spoke for you.
No, it was a great time. It was super fun. I remember we were all posing for pictures and then people kind of disappeared. And this was like in the middle of the day. A little tiny little Hufflepuff boy came up to me and his tie was a horrible mess. He may as well have been a Weasley. It was a giant knot. So I undid it and like tied it up for him and fixed it up, and I was storylining while I was doing it, and his mom's recording it, and then he turns around and I guess the mom comes up with a book and she's like, "Can you sign this for him?" Oh. And I was like, "Copyright, oh my God, sure." But no, it was really cool to switch up from being with the Death Eaters and kind of being a standalone character for the most part and being someone that wasn't so liked to the next year being the complete opposite, where everybody wanted pictures with us. We were all over the place and like we couldn't get really anywhere. We ended up getting stuck for like almost an hour after the festival taking pictures with this guy that he was dressed as Moody.
Yes.
But like book Moody, not movie Moody.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for we were there for a while, all three of us taking pictures. Yeah, he was awesome. He was so cool.
The fat one.
I think. Wait, have we lost Thomas? Has his phone died?
I don't know.
Probably.
Hi, Tom. He looks so happy.
Yeah. That's how we'll forever remember him.
Yeah.
Show your Japanese book for anybody.
Oh no! Yeah, I showed it earlier. Yeah. It's not working out so well, but yeah, there's a lot of fun illustrations in this one, but yeah.
I love how we lean in, like we'll see it more clear. Like, can we go to Japan if we
my
do
notes and stuff? Oh, what?
Whoa!
Oh, it's too light.
No.
You can see a little bit with my notes on the bottom.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Ooh, magic.
But
Cool.
That's cool as hell.
The magic.
yeah. I actually.
We're closing in on 11 here, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Weird.
This
And we love you very much, but
this has been like a nice little time capsule journey back in time.
Thanks for bringing up all of these memories about how much I missed the festival.
I know I really miss the festival now. I really want to go get some butterbeer, guys.
I will. The last thing I'll say is that I will forever rue the fact that there was one. I think Cassandra remembers this. There was one pair of girls who came up to us, and it was
By
like
the
right at the
stage?
tail end, and they were like, "This is gonna sound really weird, but like we're huge Tonks and Lupin shippers. So can you just like,
Yeah.
can you just look cute?" And we were like, "Okay," and we just
We've
like.
been doing that all day.
Yeah, and we just like posed as a cute couple, and they just did like a whole photo shoot with us. Never found those pictures.
Never. And I hunted them down on Instagram. Never found them.
But it was like, for me, it was like that. It was like just understanding that for some people, this was such a magical thing that it was like Disney World, that they got to meet us as the characters and like experience that.
Yeah, it was a great time. I don't know,
It was
but I
incredible.
peaked when Natalie Tina liked me as her. That was
Oh yeah.
it.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Wow. That's cool. That's really
What was
good.
the other thing? There were a lot of kids there, smaller kids who, you know, you saw them, you met them, and you knew they were never going to make it to Florida to the Universal, and they had this, and it was great.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a really good opportunity for them.
Yeah.
It was super cool for me to kind of see both sides because I have been a performer at theme parks prior to that, and I actually was one of the Bobaton dancers for a time over at Universal, so it was super cool to go from dancing in that to being in this festival and being so immersed in it. It's really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you wanna take us out, Dan, Mr. Harry Potter?
Oh no! Am I on the spot?
Cruxio!
The spotlight has turned. Everyone's
Oh, wait,
staring
here,
at
okay,
him.
I've got my
Julio
wand.
Offio.
Yeah.
Hey, it lights up.
Yeah, no, this one. Yeah. Thanks again, Chris, for putting this together.
Way to go, dude.
Yeah, do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Unzoomio.
Bye.
Later.
Bye. Bye.